Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Highway Department, Article 19, Highway Department Equipment Capital Reserve Fund, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $150,000 to be added to the Highway Department Equipment Capital Reserve Fund as previously established in 1981. Majority vote required.
Has this changed?
This was also last year, right?
I think we've gone up a little bit.
I think we have gone up this time. This was part of the CIP recommendations that Highway presented to CIP.
Know what that amount was last year?
I don't see it.
Highway Department equipment was $350,000.
So it went down.
So it went down.
Half,
About
Yeah.
half.
wouldn't half.
Yeah.
More discussion. Motion.
I'll make a motion to approve Article 19 Highway Department Equipment Capital Reserve Fund.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Article 20, Highway Road Construction Capital Reserve. We changed the wording on that, wasn't it? Road reconstruction? Capital Reserve Fund?
Listed in all the paperwork I've seen is the construction capital reserve fund, but I can, the actual, sometimes it gets abbreviated on the forms because they don't fit in there.
Oh.
But DRA will have what the,
All right, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,165,994 to be added to the Highway Road Construction Capital Reserve Fund as previously established in 1998. Said amount is partially offset by revenues from the highway block grant estimated at $190,000. This is an annual appropriation that provides for the reconstruction of existing roadways. Majority vote required.
Chairman,
Yes.
I have a problem with this one article. It's not that I'm against road reconstruction. It's partially offset by revenues. Does that mean 190,000 come off that 1,165,000?
yes.
So we're not appropriating 1,165,000.
My understanding when I talked to the public works director about this, I didn't write this one specifically, but I asked for clarification on it. So originally, during the CIP process, the request was 1.5 million.
Right.
Then it got reduced down to 1,050,000. And what this was a discussion between them and him as far as getting to where he needed to be in utilizing
Next few years.
to explain to the taxpayers that he's going to utilize the highway block grant to offset. He's trying to get that language in there. I did present this one to town council along with all the other ones. He was okay with the wording. There was no issues with it as far as legally. But by all means, if it's the board's will, we can take some of that language out if it seems clouded and put it into a rationale versus in the body of the warrant article.
Well, I can't tell. The only reason I asked you that,
Yeah.
this town administrator is because I can't tell now if it's 1.35 million or if it's going to be
975, 944.
975.
Well, I think with the language as it says said amount is partially offset. Again, we were trying to, the intent was to refer back to the previous stated amount as being offset, but if there needs to be further clarification, or like I said, if we want to pull that language out and put in a rationale versus the body of the warrant, we can do either or.
In the past, I've asked the same question.
Yeah.
Basically what it was is the two put together.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not how I understand.
But the 190 gets deducted.
That's not how you're taking it?
No, the 190 is actually put into your revenues already by DRA, so you're offsetting your total.
So it's going
You're
to be,
raising
So
the
it's-
you're appropriating the 1,160.
We're raising,
Yeah, but
we're appropriating the 1,165.
Yeah,
Does the 190 come off that?
Yeah, you're actually only gonna raise and appropriate. You're gonna raise
975 or whatever.
975, but you have to raise and appropriate what you're.
The whole thing.
In order to get the
Pat,
190.
okay.
The 190 goes back to surplus.
The 190 is,
It's a revenue, yeah, at that point.
We get the highway block grant whether we do construction or not, correct?
yeah, you're gonna.
Because
get
that's
that.
all from gas revenues and fuel revenues.
It comes in
So it's
4
automatic,
payments.
that's the offset.
So if, yeah, if we're gonna get that 190
Yeah,
anyways, why isn't it knocked off?
because you have to appropriate it. You have to have the power to spend that money, the 190.
We have to appropriate the 190, then they give it to us. We put it into
Yep.
Right.
unassigned
I
fund
understand,
balance.
Then it comes out.
I understand, yeah.
So in theory, you're only
Yeah.
putting up 975, 994, but you have to appropriate it all so you can,
We're getting permission.
so
to
you can
spend the
expend
money.
it, so you can get permission to spend all the money. I have no issue. I'll make a motion on that as written.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right,
Aye. 21, Bridge Construction Capital Reserve Fund, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be added to the Bridge Construction Capital Reserve Fund as previously established in 1995. Majority vote required. Discussion.
I make a motion. We approve that.
Yeah, I'll second
Written.
that. Already used some of it this year.
Yeah, we usually put 10,000 a year
Yep.
into it anyways. All right, seeing no discussion. All those in favor?
All right,
All right. Article 22, Highway Building Improvements Repair Capital Reserve Fund. I don't ever remember seeing repairs in there. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $20,000 to be added to the highway building improvements and repair. Did you add repair to that?
I didn't.
Because I've never seen repair in that.
I can't pull.
Yeah, we pulled those titles off of last year's warrant.
Might want to go back and check them.
I'm gonna
A few years ago. Seems to me like somebody's changing wording on us. Repair Capital Reserve Fund as previously established in 2014, majority vote required. The discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept it. Article 22 for $20,000 for building improvements, repairs, capital reserve fund with the clarification of the wording of the warrant article.
Second.
All those in favor?
all right.
Aye.
All right.
There we go. Sidewalk Capital Reserve Fund. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $55,000 to be added to the Sidewalk Capital Reserve Fund. Funds are previously established in 2007. Said funds are to come from the unassigned fund balance. There will be no funds raised from general taxation. This will not affect the tax rate.
Can I ask what sidewalks we have planned to do this year? Because you got 40, between the two sidewalk funds now, you got $47,600.
And I would still like to do some investigation on this because we have two different sidewalk funds, one bay, one town.
But it doesn't say Bay or Town.
I know.
One says Town of Alton.
He's saying it used to be that way.
But we established two different sidewalk funds. And I do believe Mr. Carr was on the board when we did this.
Yeah. One says Sidewalk Fund Capital Reserve Highway. And the other one says Town of Alton Sidewalk Funds.
The highway one is the bay one because we're gonna do the sidewalk right on Route 11 there. One was set up.
Well,
for
actually,
bay,
we
one
did,
was-
we did the sidewalks on
Been
Route
done.
11. The extra money was going to be for the brick walkway when the selectmen back then, Lee Sidney was on there.
Right.
I don't remember who else, wanted the stamped concrete one in there and it didn't go through.
Separated those back then because there was a big argument on town and bay.
It shouldn't be though. It should be one
we-
fund, the Town of Alton Sidewalk Fund, whether it's the Bay, West Alton, East Alton, South Alton, or Main Street.
But
I
they were
think.
separated back then because there was a big argument and a lot of the townspeople come in and wanted them separated.
Why didn't this come up last year?
Because we had.
We did. We talked about it.
Money in it. We had two different funds that we put money.
I don't
in.
remember
One
that.
was Bay, one
I
was
thought you were
town.
talking years ago.
No. this
You're
just
saying
happened.
last year that there was,
We had two
we had
different
three.
funds. I
They
do
searched
believe.
for it and didn't find it.
Jeepers, I thought that was.
I don't remember it
We
being
had-
separated into
we
three.
have- We have two different, no, we separated it
Just two.
probably about 6 years ago. We had one fund that had almost no money into it. Then we separated, we had town and Bay.
There's two listed on this ledger
Yes, I see
with,
that.
with dates. Laura was the one, she said she researched, which one was, is it the 2011 one?
The 2007 was set up
Seven.
as the Town of Alton Sidewalk Fund. The reason it says highway is because in the last couple of years, that's how it's been put in. So I wanted to make sure I put the money in the right spot. So that's me following a warrant article.
Okay.
Whether the title in the warrant article is right, I don't agree that it was. So that's just so I made sure I put the money in the right account. The one from 2011, if you go back to the 11 book, it was to add funds to the previously established. I don't know why they opened that. You're gonna give me something that's gonna prove me wrong, which is great because I can't find it.
Should be in the minutes. It should be in there. Because that was quite a discussion on it.
Does that mean you
Are
want to
we
table?
planning a big sidewalk project?
My understanding is, that through discussions is that the attention's gonna be down towards the bay. There's been a lot of discussion about that brick area where we've had some injuries, we have some risk liability issues down there, because we've had some people fall already, and that's a handicap ramp in there. So there was discussions about that. I know it's gone back and forth whether we're gonna relay brick, or we're gonna do stamped concrete. But there's not a defined scope yet, my understanding, but I would,
This is just getting set up for it.
yes.
All right. Any more discussion? Take a motion. All right, seeing none, I will make a motion. Make a motion that we approve the Article 23 as read. And to have it researched, the two different articles.
If there is two different articles,
There's two different funds and that was set up for Bay and Town.
how are you gonna address the sidewalks at the bay compared to the ones in town? If we vote to approve this,
How is that money is gonna be used?
Mr. Chairman.
Don't know.
I don't think the sidewalks, oh, I'm sorry, everyone, go ahead. I don't think the sidewalks should be separated. Everybody in the town of Alton pays for the sidewalks, whether they're in the bay or they're up here on the corner. Doesn't matter. So it's all the
fund is a
sidewalk fund is a sidewalk fund.
I agree.
I know, but they were set up because there was a lot of bickering back and forth over it.
I
Set up one for Bay, one for Town.
And if there is two sidewalk funds, there is two sidewalk funds.
Right. Shows it right on here. There's two.
But I think that's,
There is
but I think that's when the selectmen need to go and ask the voters to combine them into one fund.
I agree. I agree.
Because
It should be.
And again, we have to,
It should be combined in all sidewalks in Alton, period.
And we have to remember with this fund, the boardwalk down there should be able to be, money should be able to be used out of that. Because that boardwalk is part of the sidewalk.
Part of the
Yes.
sidewalks.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Certainly is.
I'll second your motion, Virgil, just.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Do you, just to clarify for my moving
Yeah.
forward with this one, we're looking to the two funds. If we do discover that there needs to be clarity, does the board want to see something back to try to combine the funds
Yes,
into one?
I would.
As a kind of gonna ask the rest of the board though. I would like to see it. So if everybody's okay with that. so-
Consensus, yeah.
24, Highway Rock and Asphalt Crushing Capital Reserve Fund. Town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $30,000 to be added to the Rock and Asphalt Crushing Capital Reserve Fund as previously established in 2017. Said funds are to come from the unassigned fund balance. There will be no funds raised from general taxation. This will not affect the tax rate. Do we have that big of a surplus? Or are we just gonna keep taking right out of that fund balance?
Well, right now,
Because if
like I
we
said,
pay for all these, then we sure ain't gonna be setting it where we're supposed to be on that fund balance.
so right now, currently, we were at double where we needed to be as far as percentage. We were at 16.6%.
Yeah, but what's our tax bill that we pay?
Tax bill to the county? That's already been paid.
Yeah, but we gotta pay it next year too. Keep pulling that fund balance down. I mean, that's what, 2.4, 2.6?
Well, I'm sorry, this was, some of this intent was out of the surplus that's being carried over from the operating budget here, not what's.
So
in
this
the
is gonna be
unassigned-
surplus.
What's in the unassigned fund balance.
Okay.
And the reason we put these recommendations
That's why I'm
forward
asking.
again was because we didn't want to hit, I know the board had discussed about offsetting the operating budget, but through discussions last year
Right.
previously, we wanted to utilize it on one-time warrant articles or warrant articles to pay them down so that we
It's
don't
the
get
same
the up and
time.
down in the operating
This
budget.
is an every year warrant article.
Mhm.
Well, the sidewalk has been too.
But this is coming out of our surplus.
Right now, if this gets approved tonight by us, that brings us up to 484,000 out of the surplus fund from 3.22. If you go to 500,000 here, 16 more thousand, you're down to 2.7
What
million
did you
left.
have, 455?
If this gets approved by the board tonight, you're at 484, 194.
We have an estimate on what our surplus is?
You got a couple more warrant
Okay,
articles
we-
coming up from unassigned balance.
Are we looking
You
at
got two more.
500,000 surplus?
Right now,
3 more.
I just did payroll for end of buyout.
like I said, going off, the only thing we have to go off of is the percentages and what we're looking at.
Our end of the year buyout, does that come out of our benefit line?
Comes out of the operating budget.
Operating budget.
So right now, under the current, or the current budget that I have, we're at 16.6%. And the operating budget is 1,332,028. I'm sorry, 1,363,228.
So, and we
All
got
right,
what,
and we
2
got-
weeks, 3 weeks?
Roughly, was it just 2 pay weeks left? 2 pay weeks in there. So we're supposed to be somewhere right around 7.5%. We're at 16.6.
So we're looking at
You have 3 payrolls. You have this week,
600,000.
And two
Christmas
other
week, and the week of the New Year's.
Oh,
And you have 3 payrolls.
ones. Yeah, 3 weeks.
Plus, and really, you don't know what's coming in at the 1st of January. That would be claimed on 2021's budget.
Right.
But this really has nothing to do with this part of the unfunded balance anyways, because we don't anticipate what we'll have for revenues left at the end of the year yet. This is based on what's currently there now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's coming out of the unassigned fund balance and not the surplus. If we're chewing that down, then we gotta make sure that we keep.
Now, when you say surplus, are you calling surplus from this year's budget or you call, okay. But you don't know what nobody has an idea what the surplus is going to be until we pay the bills by January 17th, I think is when you close the books. Am I correct?
All right, what's the board's wishes?
No, I think the issue, Mr. Chairman, is funds. No, not the warrant article itself, it's the funds.
Yeah.
Where we're gonna pay for it. See, we have,
If you go with the,
30,000.
you go with the next two articles after this one, the loader and the excavator, you'd be going up to 661,000. Might as well say 662,000 because it's right at 794. So that will be the two bigger pieces there. And I know this board before, a few of us have been on it before. We've never hit it more than $500,000 on the unassigned fund balance.
That's why I'm asking, because we're getting pretty close to where we,
I mean, the 399, I have no problem with the excavator and loader. I know we just put some money in that excavator the last couple of years, big money. It wasn't small money. Now we're looking to get rid of it and spending
trading
150,000
that
for
one
another
in
one.
320.
Yes, the other two warrant articles coming up, and then we're looking at those were part of the discussion because there was the board had approved those leases as new leases in the operating budget. And we pulled them out of the operating budget because there was still savings with the interest and purchasing it versus these were new leases. These were going to be new leases. And that was what was approved in the operating budget. So just if I may, Mr. Chairman, if the board is a recommendation, if you want to look to do that, some of these revolving ones like 23 and 24, 26, we can change the funding to raising and appropriating. Those are revolving capital reserves.
Right.
And they wouldn't yield the
Affect us that
benefit of
much.
interest savings like the other two bigger items.
But is the warranty any different on leasing versus purchasing those big equipment?
No, my understanding is the same. What it is
It's the same.
But the maintenance of them, because that's why we went to leasing, because the maintenance of them was killing us.
well, the good thing is with leasing, it's only, but with the bigger equipment, the term goes out so far that I think you're still gonna run out of your years and hours on the machine. Going out that far, because most of them don't have, well, some of them, I mean, like, Bill, I think it's got 5-year.
I thought that's why the town did a 5-year lease because it was less expensive leasing
That's right.
because of maintenance wise versus buying. I thought that was the impression I was given.
Well, yes, especially with like fleet leasing with the police vehicles and things like that, you have them for the term of the warranty. They have 3 or 36, but then they also have 5-year, 100,000-mile powertrain.
Right.
Through, so it does offset with the warranty and the expenses. Here, what we're looking at doing isn't so much, the warranty is not going to change. What we're trying to do is pay down what it's going to cost us in interest to carry those payments out ahead of time.
And I thought when we repaired, well, we're not on that article yet.
Mr. Chairman, Article 24, I think that's where we're at. It should go back into the operating budget to an appropriation.
Okay.
Make a motion to move Article 24, the Highway Rock and Asphalt Crushing Capital Reserve Fund, to raise and appropriate the sum of $30,000 to be added to the Asphalt Crushing Reserve Fund as previously as in 217.
Second.
I'll agree with that. Discussion. All those in favor? Aye. All right, Article 25, Highway Sand Shed Capital Reserve Fund. See if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be added to the Highway Sand Shed Capital Reserve Fund as previously established in 2003. Majority vote required. Now, this fund has 62,000 in it. We just put up a sand and salt tent shed down there. I would think we could postpone this for a year. 62,000 of that, enough to put a new top on it if we have to.
well,
Yes. Huh?
The sand shed has $8,749.
Uh,
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's not,
Appropriated now.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. So I'm on the wrong line.
right.
You're looking at where it was.
Mr. Chairman, the only reason I would go along with this only because there aren't many trees left around it, but there are some trees. If a limb or something through a windstorm gets picked up and gets thrown through that cover and we can't repair the cover, we'd end up having to replace the cover. This will help go to replacement
Have
of
to
that
have enough
cover.
in there. I thought there was 62,000 and I'm on the wrong line.
8,007,
Yeah.
749 to be
Right,
exact.
8,749.
I move that, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
if I could, I'd like to revisit Article 23 real quick to change the wording on that to be raised by taxation, not by the fund balance. Have that to be an appropriation. $55,000. That's a revolving account. We always have. It's not a one-time hit.
That's a motion.
Yes, sir.
I'll second it. Discussion. I think for that small amount, I think absolutely.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank
All right. Article 26, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $151,900 for the purpose of purchasing an excavator for Public Works Department. Said funds are to come from unassigned fund balance. There will be no funds raised by general taxation. This will not affect the tax rate. Majority vote required. Now, I thought when we redid that excavator, we were good for another 4 or 5 years, 8 years with it. Just freshen the motor and everything. We've done the ball.
Did the turntable.
Yes, the turntable was done. Yep.
So, I mean, I'm a little confused with this, why we put all the money into it to trade it in.
My understanding,
Granted,
And
that's
that
a
was
great
one of the
price for an
questions we asked at
excavator.
the time.
yes. So like I said, this was something that the Public Works Director had brought in his operating budget. My understanding through conversations with him on this warrant article is the intent is they're trading in, they're getting a good trade-in value on the larger excavator, but they're downsizing to something that he believes is more manageable for them to do the work that they're scoped to do as far as ditching and things of that nature. I know his intent is to downsize the machine.
It's another one I have trouble with taking out of fund balance. I think that changes the way people vote.
Mr. Chairman, right now, if these next two go through after we pulled out the last two, you're at 576, 794 on the unassigned fund balance. If my math is done right on longhand, I don't have a calculator.
600,000.
Getting up there.
Just under 6.
Well, we were up at 661.
We run usually about 420 to 440. Surplus, right around 400,000. We're still looking at almost 300,000 coming out of the unassigned fund balance.
Are these the last ones that are coming out of that, these two here? I just looked at it. I think they are.
It looks that way.
There's one other one on 32, but that would be another one that would be revolving that I'd recommend. Would be much more beneficial for these two items because there is a savings on top
Right.
of it. But the last one is that number 32.
Do we know what the savings is gonna be, Ryan, on?
We'll get to that one when we get to it. 32.
No, I'm talking
Oh.
about, that's not where the savings is.
The excavator.
That's not where the savings is.
I mean, I don't know what size excavator we're buying, but 151,000 is pretty good. Yeah, we're buying a small one.
My understanding is they've looked at a few, but in here, the numbers that he's basing off of is a CAT 313. I have an email from him. And over the lease that was approved
It's not that
originally in
small.
the operating budget to what it would save us to purchase it outright and not go through the 7-year lease. It's a savings of $14,180 in interest.
313. I guess we're downsizing, all right. Is this on rubber tire or track? You know,
I don't have the specs on the machine. I just have the numbers that,
Virgil, that's a 30,000 pound excavator. That's not that small.
I'd like to have a little more information on that, Mr. Chairman, myself. Have the Public Works Director come in and talk to us about it.
Especially with all the repairs that we've done to the other excavator
Yeah.
just last year and the year before.
right, now,
Okay, I make a motion, we table that.
Second.
right, all those in favor?
Get more
Right.
information.
We
I
get,
guess it's
can we have
Scott.
Public Works Director come in?
we can do that. It's just going to, we're not gonna be able to, the budget discussion hinged on those as well, because we had that discussion last week. Because these two pieces of equipment were approved in the operating budget
Right.
proposal that was brought. So, and unfortunately, I wasn't present for that proposal of the Public Works Director. Budget for highway, so, but these two pieces of equipment, the loader and the excavator, that was part of the conversation about pulling those revolving leases out of the operating budget, putting them to warrant article for the taxpayers. Where they were new leases.
I kind of agree with him, because I know Mr. Roberts did a lot of reconstruction work. And when you're doing reconstruction work, I can see you needing that, but it looks like they're starting to go in a direction of doing more maintenance work. And I don't think you need a 320 to do maintenance work. It's pretty hard to sit in the road and do a ditch when with a 320, you're taking up the whole road. And from what I understand, they're giving pretty good trade-in value on that excavator.
Should, it's all redone. Oh, what's you want to keep it
Right.
tabled or you want to vote?
Do we know what the amount of the,
I don't have a trade-in amount.
No.
Don't have the trade-in.
I was not here present at the time of the Highway Department budget. So as I stated a couple of meetings ago, so I did not hear of it. Tried to read the notes, but the minutes were really clarified in that. So
so this is in the proposal of what you renegotiate with the departments as far as payoffs and interest?
Yes, when we originally discussed this breakdown,
For this
this was
breakdown.
pulling up, these were.
So that's
these
included
two
in this.
groups, yes.
So then again, these next two warrant articles will be, basically, we've agreed on them.
We've already, yeah,
Pretty much.
The actual purchase.
Yeah.
But not the funding.
Well, do you want to pull the table, your motion on the table in the back? And we'll-
Yes,
we'll
yes.
vote.
I think we should. I'll make the motion as written.
For Article 26.
Yeah, I believe it was 26. Yes.
Second.
More discussion. All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
post.
Article 27, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $127,600 for the purchase, for the purpose of purchasing a loader for the Public Works Department. Said funds are to come from the unassigned fund balance. There will be no funds raised from general taxation. This will not affect the tax rate. Majority vote required.
this kind of falls under the same thing, doesn't it, Ryan? We've already
These were the two-
approved
Yeah,
this.
these were the two pieces of equipment.
Right.
Actually, the backhoe was in there too, but we pulled that out and paid it out of this year's.
Okay.
Yeah, I move we accept Article 28 is written.
27.
27, excuse me.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Hey,
Aye.
Post.
Article 28, IT Capital Reserve Fund, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $40,000 to be added to the IT Capital Reserve Fund as previously established in 2020. Majority vote required, recommended.
This is another one I don't understand, Mr. Chairman, because we started this 2 years ago. I was told that we'd put little money in, so we wouldn't have these big spikes. Within 2 years, we got a big spike. So I'm really starting not to believe when the department has told me we put a little in and we won't get these big spikes, but in 2 years of doing this, all of a sudden we got a big hit because we did a big hit when we first established this.
Right.
That is a lot of money, but I think we gotta also take into consideration that this stuff changes every single day.
And a lot of this, I believe, is set up for keyways to the town building, so we know who's coming in and out. The cameras at town property, so we know who's taking the catalytic converters and stuff.
No, we should have known then with all the cameras worked down there.
Right?
Well, I think that's what this is kind
All the
of.
but the cameras were there. They just weren't hooked up.
They weren't hooked up.
Only one.
And we've been after these cameras for, what, 4 or 5 years now?
So
I'm looking at the amount that's in there now. Which is appropriate for 2021.
How much is in there?
5,966.
Right,
much.
you can't even buy a computer for that.
There's not much there.
no, but that's when it
6,000.
was started originally. We got hit the first year, 2 years, we were supposed to put a little in. To stop these spikes. All of a sudden, the third year, we got a big spike. So we haven't even got into putting money away in there so you can get something built up before you got a big spike. And that's all I'm saying.
Right.
Don't throw me the wind and say you're only gonna do this to get it built up.
That was the idea when we started, was to.
Because it was 5 to 8 years, you wouldn't, until you'd have a big amount that had to come out.
Right.
Now we're getting hit within the third year.
My only thing is if we have a computer go downstairs, $5,000 ain't covering it.
It's not gonna fix it.
We're sitting, I mean, that's
I
main
understand,
source of revenue down
I
there.
understand what you're saying. I just don't like the department heads blowing wind.
I get what you're saying.
They tell me it's gonna be 8 years, then
With
you
you
get a
there.
spike in 3 years.
Just not enough in there now to do anything.
Let the voters decide.
Yeah, this comes down to the voters. If they want it, they're gonna approve it or they're not.
I make a motion to approve the Article 28 as written.
I'll second it.
For discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Article 30, Jones Field Capital.
29.
29.
29.
Article 29, Alton Bay Community Center Property Capital Reserve Fund, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the amount of $25,000 to be added to the Alton Bay Community Center Property Capital Reserve Fund as previously established in 2020.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve Article 29.
Second.
Discussion.
They're in the negative, is that what you said?
Yeah, 'cause they've been doing quite a bit of work on it now.
Yeah.
The roof, the chimney.
This needs to happen.
I could get that clarified. How does the capital reserve fund go into a negative?
They owe more than they have in there.
I know, but how does that happen? That's
Yeah.
against the law to have a
Yeah.
capital reserve fund to go into a negative.
Yeah.
I haven't requested the money. They don't realize they've overspent what they were.
Right, so shouldn't we let them know that?
$446
Yeah, but
in the
we-
hole.
Yes.
but we can't take money out of the budget to pay a capital reserve.
Depends on, because it wasn't,
No. People got to vote to put money into a capital reserve.
no, I know that. So the 446 has to come out of their operating budget for the.
But that's what I'm telling you. You can't do that. It's illegal.
No, what you're saying,
it's not.
what you're saying, Mr. Chairman, is she's gonna go back to the building and grounds maintenance funds. And they're gonna pull out of their
That's-
operating budget for
That's
the,
fine.
Take out what they need.
because there is a line item in
Pay
there
that
for
out.
Alton Bay Community Center to be paid. So
I'm not putting money in.
To take money out or to pay something from a capital reserve. People got to vote on that.
Right, but what she's saying is she's gonna take the $400 and it's gonna get paid out of the
Building account.
the building and grounds maintenance line or whatever it is. It's not coming from the capital reserve.
Probably came
We're
in
on
front-
shady ground here.
No, it probably came in front of the board that they wanted to do a project.
Yes.
And they wanted to come out.
And it went over budget.
And the money was
Without
supposed to,
knowing.
but the money was supposed to already be in capital reserve when we discussed doing the roof and stuff, that there was enough money in there.
They did, the money was in there. They just had an overage on the construction, but what she's saying is this ledger is for her to account for what's going in there. She hasn't pulled all the money out of the capital reserve.
Right.
And the plan is to go back to the department managing the project saying, you've overrun $466 or $446. This needs to come out of your maintenance line for the building.
Right.
I think you're on shady ground there, because if you vote on something through a capital reserve and the people put the money in that capital reserve, if that overruns, people would have to vote to put it in the capital reserve to pay that bill. That's a capital reserve bill. That's not a budget bill.
It doesn't have to be a capital reserve bill, though.
Right.
I don't think it does.
It doesn't.
I'm not an
All
accountant.
right. More discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Article 30, Jones Field Capital Reserve Fund, to see if the town will vote to establish a Jones Field Capital Reserve Fund under the provisions of RSA 35:1 for the purpose of maintenance and improvements to the recreation area, park property and parking lot, and to raise and appropriate the amount of $10,000 to be placed into this fund.
Jones.
With the Board of Selectmen named as agents to expend from said fund, majority required.
I don't see it on
I
here.
don't see Jones Field
Don't
on
either.
this list.
They're establishing it. It's not on right now.
Oh,
This
it's
is
a new,
be
it's gonna be a new fund?
Fund.
Got it.
Okay.
So they're
gotcha.
establishing it and appropriating 10,000 to put in.
Okay. Oh, yeah, all right. The word established is right there. Okay, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move Article 30 as written.
Second.
More discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No. Article 31, Transfer Station Equipment Capital Reserve Fund, to see if the town will vote to discontinue Transfer Station Equipment Capital Reserve Fund created in 2007. Remaining funds of $12,205 are to be transferred to the Municipal General Fund.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, kind of provide a little explanation for this. So this was at the request of the solid waste director. So again, and you're finding this when we're dealing with some of these accounts, is that clarification, there was multiple CRFs created over the years. And this is one of those situations where there's two CRFs that are current for the transfer station. And one of them is the transfer station equipment capital reserve, and the other one is the solid waste and recycling equipment capital reserve. So one is solely for the transfer, or one, it's almost like they're separate. One covers everything, and the other one is only titled as the transfer station. And what his intent is he doesn't buy like a separate, when he purchases a loader, it's for the whole solid waste center. It's not for recycling versus, the solid waste. So what he's trying to do is, the intention is to consolidate these, sort of like the crosswalks, into one. And when you look at Article 32, that is a solid waste and recycling capital reserve.
I think that's the way it should be, in my opinion. I think it should be just
Yeah, makes sense.
one category for the solid waste.
So
period.
in order, we tried to transfer and consolidate, and legally we weren't allowed to do that. So we have to actually close this one out, return the money to the unassigned fund balance.
And that's
And then that's exactly what we're trying to appropriate
are
for the next
explaining
one.
that in the rationale.
Yes.
Mr.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve Article 31 as written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Article 32, Solid Waste Equipment Capital Reserve Fund, to see if the town will vote and appropriate $12,205 to be added into the Solid Waste Equipment Capital Reserve Fund. Said funds are to come from the unassigned fund balance. There will be no funds raised this year from taxation. This will not affect the tax rate.
Mr. Chairman, I move Article 32
Second.
as written.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Article 33, landfill closure capital reserve fund, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,000 to be added to the landfill closure capital reserve fund as previously established in 1994. These funds are being used to deal with the contamination at the landfill and to meet the state regulatory requirements.
Mr. Chairman, I move Article 33.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Article 34, Town Hall Building Improvement Capital Reserve Fund, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $14,000 to be added to the Town Hall Building Improvement Capital Reserve Fund, previously established in 2011. Now, I still don't understand why we ain't using the Cleft Morrow Fund instead of establishing another fund. I mean, we have a trust fund that maintains this building. And we're making more than enough interest if we had to put a sprinkler system in.
Is there now a Clough Moral Trust is $999,000,
A million. Yeah.
$1 million in there.
$1 million,
Million, but what is interest? Not principal.
200,000. Let's see. Oh, it doesn't show
209.30.
interest.
And I think the
Income.
sprinkler system was gonna be $140,000, if I remember right. At the time it was
So there'd be enough in interest to cover that.
So the reason, Mr. Chairman, if you remember, the reason why this was established was to satisfy the fire department
Mhm.
and the fire marshal's office to show that we were putting something away future use down the road. At that time, there was not enough money in there at the time, the Clough Moral Trust Fund, to pay for a sprinkler system. Plus, there was other needs that needed to be met at the time. And the Board of Selectmen at that time, the majority said they didn't want to see that fund depleted right out to something in case a furnace came up or something major came up, we wouldn't have had the funds to pay for it at that time. So instead of draining it right down from now to, you got 240, I think you just said, Paul, something 209.
209, I
So
think.
you pull 150 out of it, I'm sure the price has gone up. You leave $50,000 in there.
But that's the interest.
You can only use the interest.
That's right.
So if you use 150, say even 175 for a sprinkler system of this building, you're draining that account pretty low in case something else might major happen. So the selectmen at that time felt if they put the $14,000 away a year, they were satisfying the fire marshal's office and our local fire department, that we were showing that we were trying to do something. That was the reason why. It's not that we
I
didn't want,
remember that.
it's
Now
not that
that
we
you
don't
mention
want to hit the Clough Moral Trust Fund. At the time, the Clough Moral Trust Fund just didn't have enough in there.
Better to build that up a little bit more. Now I remember that now. In lieu of that, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve Article 34 as written.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Right.
Aye. Article 35. See if the town, Milfoil Capital Reserve Fund, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be added to the Milfoil Capital Reserve Fund as previously established in 2010.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to approve Article 35 as written.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Rental Capital Reserve Fund. See if the town will vote to establish an environmental capital reserve fund under the provisions of RSA 35:1. Said fund to be called the Environmental Capital Reserve Fund. The purpose of this fund is to provide the town with funds to construct improvements to drainage systems and construct structures or improvements necessary for the protection of the public health, welfare, and safety arising from work required on town and state property or in collaboration with private property owners in order for those properties to be in compliance with the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, DES, and US EPA regulations. Orders as they relate to protecting the quality of rivers, streams, lakes, ponds, and wetlands from excessive phosphorus levels, bacteria, and/or allergy bulbs. The fund may also be used for expenses such as engineering, required easements, matching funds for state and federal grants, and other related expenses associated with protecting the quality of rivers, streams, lakes, ponds, and wetlands within the town, and preventing contaminations of rivers, streams, lakes, ponds, and wetlands through excessive phosphorus levels, other pollutant levels, cyanobacteria, and allergy bulbs. Further, to raise and appropriate the amount of $20,000 to be placed into this fund, to name the Board of Selectmen as agents to expend. Jesus.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Who wrote that, baby?
If I may, I will say this.
Shorten that up a little?
This was
Can you
a
read
warrant
that again,
article
please?
that was already written when I came in to look at these. This apparently was something that was discussed along the lines with the Conservation Commission.
And the Cyanobacteria Commission.
I didn't want to try to change not being part of the previous meetings. So I brought this to town council. Town council approved the wording. The intent, I get the intent. It is wordy. I think it's repetitive.
Can
It
we-
is
Well,
very
that's what I'm gonna ask you.
Said the same thing 4 times.
Can we shorten this up to the voters a little bit
Um,
somehow, whether you sat with Gene Young, who wrote this article?
I was wondering whether or not the board had any part in this conversation, and I didn't, like I said, I didn't know.
Well, I
this.
did with conservation. They were gonna, we voted to write an article,
Okay,
but I didn't mean to write a magazine.
okay.
I mean, I think we should have a work with Gene or something and shorten this thing up a little bit.
Shorten it up
Just
a little.
tighten it a little bit. is all.
Yeah,
It is repetitive. It repeats
mean-
itself several times.
it's like reading a
We,
book.
we can do that.
Problem is, you get into the voting and they see a long article like that, they'll start reading it, and then they say, oh, the hell with that, and vote no.
Yes.
Read through half of it.
Yeah.
It's not falling asleep.
You hope.
Understand that. So, like I said, I apologize, but I wanted to bring it forward so that in
It's
case
very-
this was wording that was already predetermined, I didn't want to go.
It's important.
Dropping it
It
down.
needs to be an article. It needs to be
Yeah.
there. It needs to be clarified, cleaned up.
They're trying to get a grant too. They want to fix
Yep.
across the street from the fire station down there because there's a lot of.
Oh, I got no issue with the money, the money value. It's just that was,
Well, I'll bring that back on Monday, next Monday with the clarification of a
Yeah.
couple of other ones we talked.
I was kind of hoping I could get you to read it one more time for us. I thought so.
I almost fell asleep listening.
Alright. We'll bring that back. So we are gonna table that one.
Yeah, I make a motion, we table it, Mr.
Second.
Chairman.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Article 37. Shall the town vote to rescind warrant Article 41, approved on the March 11th, 2008 ballot, because it does not allow for lawful meetings such as site visits. Oh, this one doesn't have money attached to it.
No. This is that clarification.
All right, so we don't have to do this one.
Yes, we do.
Well,
Needs our recommendation one way or
All
another.
right.
Yep.
Well, no, our recommendations only go on money articles.
no.
Yes, that's all we've ever done is money articles. That's all.
This article is being presented by the Board of Selectmen, Mr. Chairman, so we need to show a recommendation on.
This is a change.
Shall the
in-
town vote to rescind warrant article number 41, approved on the March 11th, 2008 ballot because it does not allow for lawful meetings such as site visits and site walks used by many town boards in the regular conduct of their business. And further, to replace it with the following language that complies with the existing New Hampshire laws. Shall the town vote in order to promote openness in the conduct of public business, that all town proceedings as defined in RSA 91-A, except in the event of emergency circumstances, shall be open and accessible to the public at all times in accordance with RSA 91-A. Now, this was to have the meetings in the town buildings only,
Yeah,
is that correct?
town property, yeah.
So why, it just says we're gonna have open meetings. It doesn't say that we can use other buildings. And that, I thought that was the idea of this article, was to say, to hold meetings as voting or whatever in the school or wherever we have to hold it. But this is not saying that.
I mean, Mr. Chairman, my understanding of the language and why town council had approved this language is sort of trying to encompassing all that, town-owned buildings, sidewalks, anything on the road, as to say that all town business will be conducted in
And an open,
openness in conduct of public business, meaning that it provides equal opportunity for all public residents to attend, hear,
and
see.
that's right, and that's right, and I understood what I.
Sure.
But what I'm saying is, this come about because we have to hold meetings in town-owned buildings. That was in a warrant article way back. When this was supposed to be written that we could, so we could hold voting at the church or the school or at the church that ain't a town building, or be able to hold a meeting in emergency, not in town buildings. That was the intent. That was the intent of it.
So would you like to reword this
It's up to the board.
in the intent, or
But that was my understanding of it.
Chairman, I think this should go to legal counsel. The biggest thing was people are having a problem that the town meetings were being held at the church.
Right.
I think what they need to do is have legal counsel tell you by New Hampshire law and RSA 91-A with existing New Hampshire law, if that will be allowed to be happen. And I think the town council needs to tell us on this. And if we're covered through the New Hampshire law, existing New Hampshire law and RSA 91-A, then we shouldn't have to rewrite it. But I think this needs a little more clarification from legal counsel.
Well, that's what I don't want to have it voted on and then find out that it didn't set up the way we
Didn't
wanted.
include what.
Because right now it just says site visit. So we could say, oh, there's going to be a site visit for election at the St. Catherine Drexel. It's not really a site visit
No, it's not. It's not clarified.
and it's not a site walk.
And I'd like to say something. If we ain't covered on site walks and site visits, then why are all the boards doing it?
We do that now,
I mean,
We are doing
right,
it now.
and that's what I'm saying. If we're not covered,
and they're open to the public.
They are open to the public.
and I
We
understand that,
advertise it,
but the way this article is written,
And it doesn't,
we're not covered right now to do those. And I think that if we aren't, then we've got to send notice to the boards, because I know we got another one coming up with planning board. That either postpone it until this is through.
well, our discussions with our attorney on this issue, basically, we were told we have to, the wording of that old warrant article
Got to be changed.
has to be changed. And I don't think this addresses that.
Why not,
No.
why not just rescind the warrant article?
Well, that's,
That's what it's,
Wouldn't that be the easiest way?
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And not put anything else in there?
That's what I'm afraid. This one don't cover us.
Yeah,
I think this one still restricts you though only to site visits
Right,
and walks because it doesn't clarify existing New Hampshire law.
right, right. Shall we table it and?
I think you need to,
I'll
Mr.
bring it
Chairman.
Straight into.
Yes, general consensus. If everybody else feels the same way, I agree with tabling it for
Well, I just don't want
legal
to,
counsel.
I just don't want it to come to voting and be screwed up again.
No, I agree. It needs to be cleared up or changed.
All right,
I make a motion, we table it, Mr. Chairman.
Second,
all those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Article 38, to see if the town will vote to require that the annual budget, all special warrant articles having a tax impact as determined by the governing body shall contain a notation stating the estimated tax impact of the article. Determination of the estimated tax impact shall be subject to approval by the governing body.
So what that's saying is we want to put what the impact of each warrant article is on there. I think that's good transparency right there. Tell everybody, hey, this is what it's going to do to you. I think that's just good for cleanup information. Yeah,
I remember right, that was a request of the budget committee.
I don't have a problem with that.
that. 38 as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Article 39, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to appoint a town treasurer in accordance with RSA 41:26-E rather than electing a treasurer. And I disagree with this one. I disagree with it wholeheartedly. It should be on the ballot, not taken away from the voters.
I'll agree with you, just like as we did with the time with the tax collector retired. That's when the selectmen combined the clerk and tax collector together. And I believe that this would be going before the voters, but I do not believe in taking away authorized vote.
Why?
We already did that with the highway agent years ago. I think that was a mistake. And the more and more we go, the less we have the right to vote.
That's right. That's right. I disagree with taking anything away from voters.
So I'll be voting no on this, Mr. Chairman.
Aren't we putting in front of the voters? Isn't that what we're doing?
Yes,
By
sir.
putting it as a warrant article?
But the voters, a lot of times, if the selectmen said yes to the article and all five said yes, it would probably pass.
Mhm.
And I'm saying no, because I disagree with taking things away from the voters.
Right.
If we're here to approve the articles, if three say no to this tonight, the article won't appear in the
Well, that's it.
warrant.
That's it.
Right, I mean, we're putting it in front of the people. Obviously, if the people want it, they're gonna vote for it.
Mhm.
If they don't, they're not gonna.
Yeah, but.
If they
Kinda
understand.
how it
If
works.
They understand.
But there has to be a vote of the selectmen there. If the selectmen vote 3-2 against.
Okay.
Then the people, sometimes they vote with the way the selectmen vote.
Chairman, did anybody make a motion yet? Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to remove Article 79.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
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 Okay, so there's 5 ayes.
Yeah.
Removed.
That's gone. Article 40, New Hampshire Lakes Lake Host Program. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $20,000 for the purpose of supporting New Hampshire Lake Host Program, which is a program with a mission to keep New Hampshire lakes clean and healthy now and in the future. So, with the grants and stuff, this is to help put people at the boat ramps and stuff to stop the algae blooms and different species coming in on the boats. The Lake Host Program will help with it and give grants, but you gotta get volunteers that are willing to get a little bit of money. Yeah,
Chairman, I move we approve article number 40 as written.
second. Discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Article 41, Alton Community Service Nonprofit, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $12,000 for the purpose of supporting the Alton Community Service, which provides a food pantry and assistance program for fuel, prescriptions, utilities, and housing, close coordination with the Alton Welfare Department. This is a special warrant article. And they do pretty good work down there.
Yeah, this is probably one of the better ones.
Yes.
Make a motion to approve article number 41 as presented.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Article 42. American Red Cross nonprofit, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,000 for the purpose of supporting the American Red Cross, which provides disaster relief, shelter, basic household necessities, and counseling. This is a special warrant article. Discussion? Oh, I make a motion, we accept Article 42.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh, okay. You don't like Red Cross?
I have one question.
Yep.
I was looking at my paperwork before I got to the meeting tonight. Quite a few of these they haven't got their money yet this year. Have they all received their funding?
I don't know if every single one has, but a good majority of them produce an accounting of what services they've provided directly to Alton toward the end of the year. So a lot of times they'll submit, they won't invoice regularly, they'll submit at the end of the year.
They were supposed to send us
They did send letters. in.
paperwork on what they've done for the residents of Alton during budget season for these.
So these numbers were based off of requests that came in from each nonprofit requesting that amount. And again, I saw a copy of the form letter that the town has been using, that Stacy had been sending out to the nonprofits that outlines the request for somebody from that organization to be present at deliberative, so that somebody can actually, discuss and talk about the services and what their services are and what the impact is or the benefit to Alton as a community.
Last year, we did receive financial statements from each one.
Because
Yes.
way back, we made a form up that we had a subcommittee, made a form up for them to fill out with the administrative price tag on it and stuff, because a lot of these administrative costs is almost 91% of the budget, which is nuts.
That's always been my concern with these. And not just in Alton, but other communities I serve.
Sure.
All right, Article 43, cap, nonprofit, to see if the town will vote and appropriate the sum of $10,000 for the purpose of supporting the Community Action Program, which provides supplemental food, fuel, utilities, transportation, Meals on Wheels, weatherization assistance, and Women, Infant, and Child Food Assistance Program, WIC. This is a special warrant article.
Mr. Chairman, I move, we move Article 43 as written.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Article 44, caregivers of Southern Carroll County and vicinity nonprofit. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,500 for the purpose of supporting caregivers of Southern Carroll County and vicinity incorporated, includes Alton, which provides free transportation to handicapped, elderly, and other residents needing assistance with all these services provided by volunteers. This is a special warrant article.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve Article number 44 is written and presented.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Article 45, CASA, nonprofit, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $500 for the purpose of supporting CASA, court-appointed special advocate, which provides advocacy for abused and neglected children. This is a special warrant article.
Mr. Chairman, I move we move Article 45 as written.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Article 46, Granite, V&A, FKA, Central New Hampshire, V&A, and Hospic nonprofit, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $12,000 for the purpose of supporting the Central New Hampshire V&A and Hospic, which is a nonprofit agency that provides health care, hospice care, and maternal child health services. This is a special warrant article.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve Article number 46 as presented and written.
Second.
I'm voting no on this because I just had them come to my house. It was the worst service I've ever seen.
That's the first time I've heard that.
Mr. Chairman,
We threw her out of the house.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think he can.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
is this a new one? Because I don't remember seeing that one last year, unless they merged together with different parties.
Roger's doing it.
Actually, you got Southern Carroll County and
Which is
vicinity
Wolfboro.
nonprofit caregivers. But I'm just asking.
Hospice was in there last year.
Hospice.
New Hampshire
but
V&A.
And hospice nonprofit, but I don't remember the name Granite VNA FKA. Formerly known as, I guess, Central New Hampshire VNA.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
yep. But
Formerly
Central New
known.
Hampshire V&A and Hospice was on our accounting for last year.
I personally have used that in the past and
Do you use
Edwards.
Southern or Rochester?
Central. I ain't quite sure where.
Is there a motion on the
I
table?
made, the
I'll second it.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
4 yeses, 1 no. Lakes Region Mental Health Nonprofit to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,750 for the purpose of supporting Lakes Region Mental Health Center, which provides mental health care to area residents, service for children, elderly, along with other emergency services. I've been involved with this outfit for a long time. My son's a TBI. They ended up getting rid of a doctor up there because he had 6,600 patients, which is way too many. I argue with these people constantly because they do not give the care that they should be given. I'm going to vote no for these because I think, for one, they keep buying up nursing homes and all this property, getting more bigger from being nonprofit than anything I've ever seen. And I just refuse to fund these people.
Last year, the board, I think this was voted against by the board last year.
I don't believe it was voted against from the board, but I do know, I mean, I have the accounting here as far as they did, the townspeople voted to allocate or appropriate,
The townspeople.
I'm sorry, or Lakes Region Mineral. So they did 15,750 last year. So this is, yeah,
It's supposed to be what they spend in Alton residents. But when you get a doctor that spends less than 3 minutes with a patient, then there's something wrong. And I've gone with my son many a times up there. And we haven't been there more than 5 minutes. That's from getting out of the car, go in, see him and leave. Give a motion on that.
not yet.
Not yet.
Move Article 47.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
4
101.
yeses, 1 no. Life Ministries nonprofit to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $3,000 for the purpose of supporting Life Ministries Incorporated, which is a not-for-profit charity that provides food and staples to Alton residents. That don't seem right to me.
but food and staples. Staples are just necessities.
It's not like staples in your gun.
Staples that you have.
Inventory, you know, whatever.
Well, maybe we should put necessities in there or something.
Same thing.
Make a motion to approve Article 48.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Yes. 49, New Beginning nonprofit to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,575 for the purpose of supporting New Beginnings, which provides 24-hour crisis support for domestic and sexual assault victims, operates a shelter and provides counseling. This is a special warrant article.
Mr. Chairman, I move Article 49 as written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Article 50, Waypoint nonprofit to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,500 for the purpose of supporting Waypoint, formerly known as Child and Family Services of New Hampshire. This is a special warrant article.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
What's the name of this one before? No?
Waypoint is the new one, but it was Child and Family Services of New Hampshire.
All those in favor?
Aye.
5 ayes. Article 51, to hear reports of any committee, boards, trustees, commissions, officials, agents, or concerns of voters, and vote to accept the same. Furthermore, to conduct any other business that may legally come before said meeting.
This was a petition article that was approved last year to be added to the warrant.
We don't have to put a thing.
No,
on
there's
that.
no recommendation or anything like that. I talked to town council about that one. It's
no
no
money
money.
involved.
It allows the opportunity for anybody to get up.
That
and
should stay
say
there
they-
though every year from here ongoing because the townspeople voted on it.
Right.
I think it should say petition warrant.
No, that
No,
last
no.
year was petition. It got approved last year.
Right,
Be petitioned this
to
year.
be on it this year.
Oh, okay, yep.
Now, I have one more that I'd like the board to consider, warrant article, to use even half the interest that's coming in the Cleft Morrow Fund. Start pressure washing this building. Get the bricks repointed where it needs to be repointed, sealed up, and doing the rotten windows. Rotten window casings on the window, the rotten.
Do you have an amount in mind?
Even 1,000,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I don't think you need the warrant article on that. Board of Selectmen have the authority to repair and maintain the building as needed. You have the right to petition the trustees of the trust funds at any time for
Yeah.
funds that are needed.
Yeah.
Cannot go into a town meeting with a warrant article blindsided because we haven't gone out and got any estimates what it would cost. But I believe by statute, with the trustees, trust funds, if something came up on the outside of this building, need to be done drastic, we have the right as selectmen to petition trustees of the trust funds to ask the use of the moral funds.
And we get denied for a lot of stuff that we've asked. Same when we asked about sprinkler system, it was denied. And if people
No,
vote on
sir,
it,
we
there's no
never asked
arguing it. We take part of that, whether it's, if they get 200,000, take 100,000 out of it each year to start getting this building back to tight.
All I'm saying is we never asked the trustees, trust funds for the sprinklers, sir.
Yes, we did too. Yes, we did too.
Well, we have. No, you just made a motion on some issues of this building, right?
Yeah.
But,
Got window sills, got window, all right, go ahead.
oh, I understand it, but what else is wrong with it?
Should be,
I mean, we
Got-
should have some kind of a,
you've got holes that are starting to come through on the brick. It
Yep.
needs to be pointed.
Yep.
It should be pressure washed, pointed and sealed again. The casings on the windows are rotten right out. The trim on the outside of these windows should be replaced and sealed up to stop water from going into this building
see,
before we have a major problem.
if we had a list of deficiencies, every year we could attack it, have, get estimates and do whatever we fund it the way we see fit at the time. Right now, we got no idea what it's gonna cost to do what you wanna do. My opinion,
All right,
it's good to do. And it should be done.
Like everything else we do, we get an evaluation of what needs to be done in phases.
It's like.
In
we went-
order of business, in order of the necessity of the building.
We went and put a new roof on the building down here at the bay, and then we determined the chimney's bad. That's,
That's why it costs a little bit more money.
yeah, that's what boosted that one.
but if we're told that it was gonna go over, we probably would have waited the year for the chimney. All right. We'll skip that one then.
But I think we
We'll wait another
do
5
need,
years.
we do need to discuss and formulate a way of each year putting together an estimate. But we got to do it in order of immediacy. In other words, what needs to be done first? Take care of the outside of the building, do these things that you're talking about, repointing, power washing, fixing the windows on the outside. That's one. Second, let's get an estimate on the sprinkler system and maybe do a warrant article on that separately.
Well, sprinklers, and that's what we've been putting the 14,000 a year away.
I know, but have we priced it right out completely? What is that cost? How long ago was that?
Well,
estimate?
that was, what, 4 years ago?
That hasn't been
Okay, so
timely.
we need to do a new estimate on that.
How much did you have for an estimate?
I think it was 120.
Johnson, I believe, if I recall, right?
Probably two now.
So to me, the outside of this building, I know that it should be sprinkled, but we do have smoke detectors and in the building and so on and so forth. I think outside is important to take care of the outside of the building, get that stuff done, get an idea of how much that costs.
Do we have the ability to feed this building enough water for a sprinkler system? The water lines will hold that? I don't think they will.
Yeah, you have a flow rate.
There was an estimate that was given based on the flow rate and everything. That was like, say, a few years ago. The sprinkler system was more not to protect the building or the files in place. It was to satisfy the fire
Fire
marshal.
marshal.
That's all it was.
Mhm.
Because we were
That's
going to
expensive.
be limited to how many people we could have in this room. Granted, is the fire sprinkler suppressing a good idea? Yes, that's the town of Gilmanton. What happened there is their building froze one year and the water went everywhere all over their building. They had quite a cleanup, but if there'd been a fire, it would have put it out. God forbid we ever have a fire.
All right,
I think we need to get estimates outside and
All
get
right.
that rolling and get that started outside.
all right.
In my opinion.
Just a suggestion for the board while you're having this conversation. I mean, you always have the option too. There is a town hall building improvements fund, which is the one we put 14,000.
That's the one we've been saving for the sprinkler.
And I know that that also encompasses building, all building improvements and stuff. At any point in time, the board could decide to increase that 14,000 a year with some of the things that we're being faced with is probably not adequate.
Right.
As far as to address some of these immediate things, but by all means, it's either something that the board can discuss now or this itemized list of priorities
We'll
and
put it
things
on
that need to be done,
Put it on a future meeting.
we can put together.
All right, moving on to operating budget discussion.
Have a quick 5-minute break.
Okay,
With you. I think I'm gonna have a cigarette. I don't even smoke.